Welcome everyone, my name is Walter Peters, and as most of you probably know, I like to trade without indicators and make things really simple for my trading. I'm so happy to be here at FX Street. It's really nice that you guys have made the time to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about some naked trading today. Let's take a look at the chart. Does anyone have any requests before we get started here? We can look at any old chart. Does anyone have any requests that we should look at? Which chart is one that you would really like to look at today? Okay, Arachiga wants the euro. Any others? The euro is usually popular. Yep, Aviator agrees. Sarah also votes for the euro. Okay. Alex doesn't really care. Hala says Aussie key. Interesting. That's an interesting one. Abdul wants the Swiss. Jiri wants the euro. All right. We'll tell you what, guys. Here's a quick look at the Aussie Kiwi. And it's right on a support and resistance zone right now, although it doesn't really tell us that it's going to stay there. It looks like it could stay there, but we need to see something bullish here at this stage. All right, looks like euro wins out, so let's do euro. Whoa. This actually, the reason why this chart has an indicator on it is because I'm writing about why indicators don't work. So that's why that one's there. Okay, let's go to the euro chart. White. Okay. So here we go. Here's the euro. I'm on the daily, but I'm going to move to the weekly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my zones in as I normally do. You can see here that this zone is white, so you can't see it. Let's make it a different color. Let's make it red. Okay. So, what am I looking for here? For those of you that have been here before, when I draw my zones on the chart, what is it that I'm doing? What am I trying to find? Why am I doing this? Who is this guy? What's he doing here? Support and resistance. Yeah, that's right. Price turns. We're looking for those spots on the chart, like Manoj says, where price has turned around. And that's it. We're looking for places where price has turned around over and over again. And if it's a little bit tricky, if you're looking at it, yeah, everyone knows. Great. This is good. Hopefully you know why these lines are here. If you don't know, that's the answer, right? We're just looking for those spots on the chart where prices turn around over and over again. Now, if you're curious as to why, some areas look like maybe price didn't turn around, like for example, in here, see in here where it looks kind of, I put a line through here. Why would I do that? It looks kind of weird. But if we look at the line chart, hopefully it'll clear up a bit. And it kind of does. See how price gets through there, bounces off of there, comes down, bounces off of here, comes back up. Same thing here. It comes down, bounces there. So the line chart clears it up. So if you're not good, if you're just learning how to do this and it's a little bit hard for you to see it, sometimes the line chart's the way to go, for sure. All right, well, that's good for the weekly. Let's go to the daily now. Let's quickly get this chart up and running. And here on the daily, I'm going to draw some blue lines. So just to remind me that they're a little bit different. All right? These are daily zones. So the interesting thing about the euro is the floor has fallen out, right? The floor has fallen out on the euro. Now the day is still young. There was a question about my charts. So these are just standard demo account at FXDD. and I believe that it's plus 1 GMT, right? Because it's printing the 8-hour bar right now on my chart, and I believe it's 7 o'clock GMT right now. Oh, sorry, that's the daily bar. Okay. I'm not looking at the 1-hour bar. Here's the 1-hour bar. Okay. Yeah, so, oh. No, 22. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, so my charts are plus 2 GMT, for any of you that are wondering. That's it, plus 2 GMT. Okay. All right, so, now, let's back it up and take a look. So what can we say about the euro right now? Well, obviously, what happened was recently the euro made its way down near this zone down here at 40.55, came up, came back down, then came all the way up to this zone up here at 45.15, and then it fell. And when it got to 42.25, it paused. In fact, it found a little bit of support there with this bar and then this bar, which was Friday, right? And then today, it's just absolutely fallen through the roof, through the floor. It's over. Now, the question is, what is going to happen here? Now, my best guess, and this is just based on the fact that I have a zone drawn here at 1.4057, which currently the market is about 40 pips away from that. It's 40 pips lower. But the day is still young. I think we have a couple more hours before this daily bar is going to close. So it could come back up and close around this, where I have drawn this zone line, right? So my best guess is that today it's going to end up closing around this zone. That's what I would say about the euro, right? Now the question is, what's it going to do next? First of all, I don't think it's going to make it down to 37.85 in the next 2 hours. But that's a possibility over the next couple of days. Right now, what we need to see is what's going to happen tomorrow. If this chart, if this bar closes around the zone, and then tomorrow we get a nice giant bullish bar, well, then guess what? It's probably going to head back up to 45.15. But and I'll show you exactly the type of bar that I'm talking about here. Or what could happen instead is tomorrow maybe it just prints the kind of a little baby bar down here and it just sort of sits on the zone, and then maybe the next day it'll fall. You know, the most likely scenario is that it's either going to pause here and then keep going all the way down here, or it's going to turn around, right? We never know. Thunderfoot says it's a Fibbo retracement. So maybe Thunderfoot's looking at this. From here, from this low to this high maybe? I'm not sure. Oh, tomorrow. Right. Okay, well we'll see what's gonna happen tomorrow. But so if I were looking at this euro right here, or, you know, do I have to buy or do I have to sell? No, I have to do nothing right now. And that's because I haven't seen what I'd really like to see right here is a bar tomorrow that would tell me that it's going to turn around and go higher. That would be great, right? That would be ideal. If we could see something like that tomorrow, wow, that would be so cool. And what would be an example of a bar that would give us a clue tomorrow, like if it printed tomorrow, that, you know, we think it's going to turn around on this zone? Because this is a pretty well-established zone. Does anyone have any examples of what would we look here? What might we see here that would be good? Kangaroo tail would be ideal, and kangaroo tail looks like this, right? Right here. We could get a big shadow, says Rami. Yep, that's right. A big shadow. So a kangaroo tail looks like this bar. A big shadow looks like... I saw one. I just saw one a minute ago. There's one down here, I think. This bullish one down here. So that's kind of what we need. We need to see a big shadow. There's one on the 10th of May. Right. So we had a big shadow here. This is a big shadow with the trend type of situation. A doji is, I think a doji. I'm not up on my candlesticking, but I think a doji is, as I remember, I think it's a kangaroo tail, right? Although I think not all dojis are kangaroo tails, but all kangaroo tails are doji. Something like that, if I understand that. Because I think this is I think this is a doji too, isn't it? This bar right here? But that's not a kangaroo tail. Right here. I think that's a doji. Yeah. Yeah, so all dojis are kangaroo tails, but not all kangaroo tails are dojis. Right. Okay. Alright, so let's see. So as for the euro, I would say that we don't really have any reason to do anything at this stage. Now, I've just broken it down to the 4-hour chart, and you'll see here what's very interesting is that we have this bar right here. So on our 4-hour chart, we have what appears to be a kangaroo tail. Now, it's not really that exciting because remember, we've had a few kangaroo tails along this fall. Namely, there was one here, which only gives a brief move up, and then there was another one over here, which never really broke higher. So this one doesn't look so good at the moment. So this one may not work out, but it is a possible spot for us to see, you know, where the market could find support here. What would it need to do to give us a clue, though? It would have to do a couple of things. First of all, we'd want to see the market trade higher. So the high of the kangaroo tail is 1.4075. So if it traded up at 1.4079, that'd be 4 pips higher. And we could take a buy right there, and we could put our stop loss below the low, so about 100 pips away at 1.3979. So that's 100 pips of risk, and then we could look to take profit up here, 158 pips away at 42.37, 42.38. That's a possibility right there. Now, right now we can't take this trade because why? Because the market hasn't traded higher than this kangaroo tail yet. And that's one of the rules, right? When we're looking for kangaroo tails, what are the rules? The rules are that the kangaroo tail has a open and a close in the top third of the bar, right? The kangaroo tail must have the open and close inside the range of the previous bar, which is also what we've seen here. The open and the close are indeed in the range of the previous bar. And we like to see the next bar trade higher. Now that rule is flexible. I know some traders that will not just wait one bar for the market to trade higher. This is a bullish kangaroo tail, right? So we say it needs to trade higher. If we're a bearish kangaroo tail, it'd be the opposite. We'd want to see the next bar trade lower. Would you put a buy stop at 1.4080? Asked Archiga. Yeah, that's how I do it. In fact, when I usually trade the daily charts and I just put the buy stop in and walk away. Now I will say this, because this question comes up a lot. I prefer to see, if I'm trading the daily charts, for example, I would prefer to see the market push through my buy stop or my sell stop, depending on the trade. I prefer to see that happen during the European session or New York, but usually it's European. In other words, the daily bars close. See, these daily bars here on my chart are going to close in 2 hours, and then it's going to be the Asian session, right? So what I like to do is I like to look at my charts at the beginning of the Asian session and see if there are any really nice setups. And then I can put my buy stops in and my sell stops. But what I like to do is actually do it maybe halfway through the Asian session or something like that, which is the daytime for me. or I can put them in right before the European session starts trading or something like that. So if you're in Europe, that would be early in the morning for you, right? Depending on which country. But and the reason why is because usually what will happen is the Asian session will kind of drift around, and it usually goes in the wrong direction. And then in the European session, you guys have probably noticed this as well. The European session is when the market really pushes it and can really go. And if we could take an example of today, like for example on the euro, let's look at the euro. So today on the euro, here's the Asian session right here. This is the 1 hour chart now, right, on the euro. So here's the Asian session right here. Okay? And the market it moved up a little bit, but it sort of stayed in a tight range. And then boom, that was it. And here's Europe right here. By the time these bars started printing, that was it. It was off to the races and it started falling like crazy. Michael says, would you still take this even though it's counter trend? Yeah, I would. You know, that's a good question. You have to decide what kind of trader are you. I'm the normal type trader. And I say this as a trader who's tested a lot of traders. You know, as a psychologist, I come up with some trading tests, and most traders out there that I've come in contact with, most of my friends, they're all counter trend traders. Most traders I know are not trend traders. They would much rather take a trade where they're looking for a reversal than to jump on the trend. Now that may not mean that you are, Michael, but most people are. Most traders are. And I've taken trades just like this one in the past. Like, there was a pretty cool one, let's see. There was an Aussie one. Yeah, that's right. There was an Aussie one, and that was back. I took an Aussie one here, right here. Here's one. This was a counter trend trade, right? This one right here. I remember taking this one, and that one went for, I dumped a little bit up here at 110 pips, and I dumped the rest of it up here at 194 pips. So that's an example of, see, the market had been falling, came down, printed this nice kangaroo tail around the zone, and then started moving up. Rami says, is the kangaroo tail still effective even if the next candle doesn't open higher? And for how many candles can we consider the kangaroo tail? Rami, you know, this is what comes down to testing. See, this one is not looking good at this stage, right? Our kangaroo tail is not looking like a very happy setup. We have approximately 2 more hours for this to turn around. What I like to do, Rami, is I give it 1 bar. So if I'm trading the daily chart, that's usually 1 day. If I'm trading the 4-hour chart, that's 4 hours. 1 hour chart would be 1 hour. Now, that's just the way I do it, because I've noticed in my testing that by doing that, I'm going to weed out a lot of the losers. Right? That's what's going to happen. I'm going to weed out a lot of the losers by waiting for the next bar to trigger my trade. Now, some people will let it go for a couple of bars. But, like, this one is looking really poor right now. It's only about, see, my stop would have been down here at, let's say it was at 80. So it's about 27 pips away from where the stop would have been. So in other words, what we're saying is that once it reaches where the stop was, then I remove my order, right? I don't want to have an order in if the market has already made it to where the stop would have been. So that's how I manage it. I just wait 1 bar. Did you take the June 30th short trade on the Kiwi? Asked Aviator. Okay, let's take a look. Did you take the June 30th short trade on the Kiwi? I don't think I did, but let's take a look at our chart here. This is the weekly. Let's look at the daily. June 30th. June 30th. Short. June 30th. Short. I don't see a short here. Aviator, can you tell me what you're talking about? Because I don't see a... This is my June 30th bar right here on the Kiwi. And I don't see any kangaroo tail or big shadow or anything that would say sell. In fact, it's a little bullish. So I'm not sure what happened there. Okay. Minaj says that another FX Street instructor called Steve Primo takes daily engulfing bars like yourself, but he only buys above the daily SMA 50 and only sells below the daily SMA 50. Any comments with this filter? Well, you know, I'm all for finding your own style, and that sounds like what's going on there. So, if he has found that, you know, he doesn't want to take certain setups with, you know, on the wrong side of the moving average or whatever, that's totally reasonable, and it's a strategy that a lot of successful traders use. That's great. I actually think you can figure out by looking at a chart whether or not, you know, the up moves or the down moves are stronger. Aviator says the kangaroo tail was on the 4-hour chart. Ah, okay. So there's a 4-hour sell on the Kiwi around the 30th. See, this is what happens here is I didn't really take any. I haven't taken any trades on the Kiwi in some time. Unfortunately, even though it's one of my favorite currency pairs, it's really fun. But I don't see. There would have been somewhere around here. I guess there was a kangaroo tail. Maybe my bars look different than yours. That's what I'm thinking, Aviator. Is that my two 4-hour bars here is where you're, maybe that's where you're, yeah, exactly. But, having said that, I don't have a zone drawn there anyway. So the rules are, you know, you wait for price to hit the zone and then you wait for a pattern, right? Let me back it up here and see. So the problem with the Kiwi is it's at sort of one of those all-time highs. I'm on the monthly chart now. So what I have to do is draw in some zones here based on what price has done. So I'll put one up here, right there. I'll make that one orange because that's a color for the weekly ones. So we've got another zone drawn there now. So we're all set. And the reason why I drew it there is obviously it's an extreme high, right? So price made a move up to that zone and then it fell. So if you have an extreme high or an extreme low, you can draw zones as well. Is there another question that I'm... Yeah, so, you know, some people do take these with the trend, like sounds like Steve's doing that, which is really cool. Michael sounds like he likes that sort of style, right? Do you want to try and see if we can find any setups right now? Maybe there will be some, maybe we can find some nice looking kangaroo tails or big shadows. Here's the CAD, the loonie, and I don't really see anything, but this is what I would say about the loonie because I think this is interesting. This is an interesting chart. See this zone right here? On my chart I have it drawn at 96, 94, but you could just draw it at 97 even, right? In fact, you could just say it's at 97. 96, 94 is a little ridiculous. I know I say I don't care about round numbers, but when it's really close like that, you may as well just draw it as a round number. So there you go. So I've got this zone drawn right here. Now, I would like to see something happen here because look at these bars over here. They went down into this zone and reversed. These bars paused before it finally fell through that zone, and it recently came up to this zone right here and then fell. So what we're at right now is we're at a situation where you can actually, Bill, email me, Bill. I can give you some stuff. We may see price turn around right here. Now we may not, but it's a critical location. This is the type of spot on the chart that we should see a nice pattern develop, right? That's what we should see here. If it's going to reverse here and keep traveling, now for those of you that are with the trend type people, this is certainly a with the trend type trade. Why do I say that? Because it's been falling. In fact, if you look at the weekly chart here, I'm going to show you something really cool. Check it out. I know it looks ridiculous with all the lines on the chart, and this isn't meant to be a weekly chart. It's meant to be a daily chart, so that's why it looks weird here. But take a look at what we have here. 2 weekly bars ago, this is a giant big shadow, isn't it? So, this big shadow not only engulfs the prior week, but the week before that, the week before that, and the week before that. In other words, that weekly bar engulfs the prior month. And also the week before that, and also the week before that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weekly bars. 6 weekly bars were engulfed by our big shadow. So what I'm saying here by looking at the 4-hour chart is we may have an ideal setup here. We may have a really nice looking place for us to find a short. Because remember, that weekly bar suggests the price is moving lower on the Canadian dollar, on the loonie here, on the dollar against the Canadian dollar. All we really need to happen now is a nice kangaroo tail here, a nice big shadow, something on this zone to tell us that yes, price has exhausted on this up move, and we're going to find a reason to sell it again. Now, Manoj is asking about this type of trading and whether the banks trade this way. Do they eventually find? Is this how traders at the banks tend to trade? Do they eventually find a strategy and gives them an edge, and they keep repeating this, or do they use other techniques? Now, here's the thing I know about this, Manoj, because there's a lot of questions about bank traders. Usually what they do is very simple. Like something like we've been talking about, or like what Steve's been talking about, Steve Primo, I guess, doing the same sort of thing. Cool. I mean, I think that's great. Usually what happens with banks, you know how like if you're a stock trader, and some of you may not know this, but if you're a stock trader or a stock broker, sorry, if I'm a stock broker, right, and I say, my client, I have this big client, he's a billionaire, and he calls in and he wants to buy a bunch of, let's say, he wants to buy a bunch of IBM stock, okay, a whole bunch, and I know it's going to move the market. It's illegal for me as a stock trader to put other orders in front of his order, knowing that when his order goes through, it's really going to move the market, right? That's illegal. It's called front running. You can't do it. It's a cheating method, because I know that the big order is going to move the market, so I put my other orders in front of it. Maybe I buy some myself right before I put his in, and that way I lock in a cheap price, and then by the time his trades go through, it really pushes the market higher. That's cheating, right? However, for the banks, that's not cheating. So in other words, what I'm saying, and this speaks to Manoj's question, if a bank knows, right, that the IBM Corporation is going to send through 700 million euros and buy U.S. dollars, and they're doing it through their bank, if the bank knows that they've got to execute this trade for IBM, they can put their orders in front of that. So they know it's going to move the euro a little bit, even though there's 400 trillion or $4 trillion every day or whatever it is now. I don't know what it's up to. It keeps going up every couple of years. But even though that occurs, it will move it. Like a huge order like that will move the market, and the banks can use that to their advantage. So they can use what's called front running in stock trading, and that's not illegal. So that's another method they use. They know when the big orders are coming through, and so they'll take some trades before they go through. Things like that. Yeah. But in general, they usually do pretty simple things. Yeah, the big volume comes through the interbank market. That's right. The interbank market is where what we trade as retail traders is simply it's a parallel universe to the real currency exchange, which is the interbank market, right? We're trading it's sort of like, when you play house, you're not really the husband of the house or the wife of the house or the dog of the house. You're just playing house. That's what we do as retail traders. We just play around with the foreign exchange market. Okay, so this is the CAD is one that's it does get really choppy, Michael. I agree, but there are certain situations where the CAD shows up and it gives you something really nice, and I think that's right now. Now let's talk about the with the trend type situations, because we've seen these before, right? This who was the trend trader here? Someone here was talking about, I think, was it Aviator? No. Somebody here was talking about trading with a trend. Michael, I think it was. Michael? Yeah. Okay. Yes, moi. So, Michael, here's an example of a big shadow with the trend. And, in fact, I talked about this one earlier in the day when this bar was just starting to print on another thing. So basically, it's a giant big shadow. What makes it a big shadow? Completely engulfs the power bar. But it's one of those situations where it's with the trend. Usually what I look for in a big shadow is I look for it to be on support or resistance, so a reversal. But this is a with the trend type one. So what you have here is a big shadow, completely engulfs the prior bar. It's right on support and resistance. And it suggests that the market's going to fall through it, and that's exactly what happened. This giant big shadow on the euro pound. So now your stop's all the way up here, and you're selling all the way down there. 151 pips is a lot on the euro pound, because they're 160% of normal pips. But it's already gone over almost 50 pips, 48 pips in your favor at this stage. Where would we look to take profit? Well, down here would be pretty good at 87.51. That's another 62 pips away. That would be a pretty good spot. Now, the issue though right now is if you look at this chart, and it's so funny, I made a video on this trade today. It's done exactly what I talked about. What I said on the video was, look, this is a big shadow with the trend, so it's a sell trade on support, suggesting that price is going to break through it. And the one spot on the chart, Michael says he saw it, but it moved so much. Well, here's the thing. Where it stopped right here was exactly where I said it might have some troubles. The reason why I said that is because we have what's a minor zone here. What's a minor zone? A minor zone is just a support and resistance zone on the chart on a lower time frame than we're looking at. So this is a daily euro pound. If we went to the euro pound 4 hour, we'd see that there's going to be a zone right here. And you can kind of see it with the line. See these lines here? So if I drew a zone right here, I could say, look at this. I've got these touches here, here, there, 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 there. And if I look at the 4 hour chart, I can guarantee that this line, in fact, let's do that right now so we can see. I'll color it green. We'll go to the 4 hour chart here, and we'll look at, here you've got some touches here, there, 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 some touches there and there. And look, a kangaroo tail off of it right there. That's a beauty kangaroo tail right there. And Michael, for those of you that like to trade with the trend, this is the type of kangaroo tail you see with the trend, where price has been moving up, 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 and then it sort of comes down and dips down, touches the zone, and then it's back up off to the races. Those are really common with the trend type kangaroo tail. So yeah, so you can see that that green line does show a zone, a minor zone, not something I would draw on my daily chart, but something that you can get some practice with seeing these. And so that's sort of why prices had a bit of a stop here, because of that minor zone. What are the other? Does someone want to look at the Swissy? I think we were getting some requests for the Swiss, right? So here's the Swissy. Here's a big shadow back here. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look like we have much happening just now on the Swissy. Make that one red so it matches the rest. A weekly reversal on the Swissy. Let's see. I would say on my weekly chart, if I'm looking at the Swissy, I would say it just looks like it's just choppy, you know. That's what I think. Usually, see how this is like a little, it's sort of a little, it's been trading in the zone for the last 6 weeks. Kind of like what happened back here. You know, you have a consolidation zone. It can break out of that and then keep going. Like right here. It happened back in July 2010. Could be the same thing here. So I don't know if I'd say it's a reversal just yet. I'd say we need to wait for it to break out of this box here and see where is it going to go. I don't know. I mean, the safe bet is down, but it hasn't really broken through this level yet, so don't really know. What were the other ones that people want to look at? I'm going to go back. See, we're looking at the Aussie Kiwi. I did look, the pound. We didn't look at the pound. Let's look at the pound. Alright, so the pound is very interesting. The pound made a move all the way down to our zone. I did look at the Aussie Kiwi really quickly. I'll look at it really quickly again. Here's the pound. Look what happened. This bar down here on the 4-hour. Where did it print its tail off of it? Off the 1.5878 zone, right there. Exactly, Michael. Exactly. We need the last kiss on that one. Yeah, Manoj, I know that these sorts of strategies will work on any market. In fact, a friend of mine did this is silver. He took a silver trade. I'll show you where. Where did he take it? Right here, I think. Oh, whoops. He took a silver trade off this big shadow right here that's marked on the silver chart, and he said he made a matza. That's what he told me. He said he made a matza. He said he waited for this big shadow to break higher, and I think he added some as it went, and it just kept going, and I don't know how far it went, if it went all the way up here or not. A matza. A matza is just a lot of money. Usually used in terms of money. Yeah. A matza. Okay, so it does work on other markets. You can do it on stocks, you can do it on indices, you can do it on everything. So the pound, getting back to the pound, obviously, whoa, that's the wrong chart. Getting back to the pound here, the pound made a touch down here on this, that's the one too. I had a nice pound chart. There it is. Yep. There it is. It touched this zone there, and it's caught between these two zones. I don't really see anything on the 4-hour chart. Certainly nothing on the daily. If you're waiting for a buy signal on the pound, I think you're still waiting at this stage. We don't have anything. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe sometime this week. Let's look at the Aussie Kiwi. Hollow wants to look at it again. Let's take a look at what we have here. Nothing, really. The only thing I would say about this one, Manoj is concerned about the small number of daily setups. Well, then you could try the 4-hour, because then you'll have 6 times as many setups. But my concern is that when traders move to the 1-hour chart, they start to lose a lot. That's my concern. and I'm no different. Moving to a lower time frame chart, I found Akalu. I can send you a book. Yeah, so what we're looking at, Hala, is we're just looking at a possible double bottom here where we had a touch here and a touch here. We need to see a big shadow or a kangaroo tail. It certainly is on a zone on my chart. So as I see the Aussie Kiwi, it is a good spot to wait for something good. It's just we don't have that something good yet. And that's the strategy, right? So when you're trading off support and resistance zones, 1, you wait for price to hit the zone. 2, you wait for price to give you a nice pattern at that zone. 3, you take your trade and let it rip, right? So that's kind of how that works. So hopefully that's helpful. Michael says, didn't you have some exciting news coming up? Was that at FX Street or someplace else? I'm not sure, Michael. If it was someplace else, I know, yes. But if not, okay. It may have been someplace else, right? Yeah. Okay, you guys can always email me, right? highpipdiet@gmail.com. There you go, and we can send you the books. All right. What other markets do we look at? We looked at the pound. So what's really critical right now, I guess the whole message right now is what? Is that right now we're on the zones, on the euro, on the pound, and so if we're going to see something, if we're going to see a reversal, it needs to happen like tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, the next day, is when we should get our nice big reversal bars. Otherwise, we're going to see a continuation, most likely. Now, here's a pair that a lot of people don't trade, but I'm actually watching it. This is the Swiss yen daily. And what you see here on the Swiss yen daily is, notice how there's a kangaroo tail. This is a sort of one of those continuation type patterns where you have a kangaroo tail against resistance. Normally I would take a bullish kangaroo tail on support, like the one down here, or maybe this kangaroo tail here against resistance there, that sort of thing. Here's a kangaroo tail again. Here's a with the trend type kangaroo tail right here, where the price came up, sort of like I was talking about, Michael. Price came up, bend back down, touched our zone, printed our kangaroo tail, and then was back off to the races. It happens a lot. Manoj has a great question here, guys. Manoj says, do you think it's true that profitable traders really create their own strategy? Is it difficult to copy someone else's? This is what I would say about that. I know a lot of traders, right? And a lot of the traders that are doing really, really well, what they've done is maybe they trade kangaroo tails, but they only trade them with the trend, like we were talking about with Michael. Or maybe they trade, big shadows, but they only trade them below or above the moving average, or something like the other guy at FX Street. We were talking about how he does that. So sometimes, that's what happens is you guys might learn something here. You might trade the big shadow, you might trade the kangaroo tail. And again, if you don't know the rules for those, hopefully everyone here understands the rules. I don't know, Hala. You'll have to ask FX Street on that one. So if you don't have the rules, you can always email me at highpipdiet@gmail.com. I can give you the rules for the big shadow or the kangaroo tail. The point is this, that the best traders out there tend to take a strategy and run with it. Like one trader that I know who's really successful, who trades on his own now, he uses, which one is it? He uses every time I see his chart, he's got one of these things on it. The RSI. Oh, you can't even see the RSI. Oh, whatever. It's all black, so it's not on there. But anyway, the point is that he uses things that he's learned from me, but he also uses the RSI. That's fine, whatever makes sense to you. So I would do whatever makes sense to you. If you found that a certain indicator works for you, then I would say build something on it. If you found that one of these patterns that we talk about here, the last kiss, the big shadow, the kangaroo tail, or anything that we talked about works for you, then I would say build on that too. The critical thing though is that you have to test it. And a lot of guys I know don't do that. And girls. Guys and girls. And the way we test it is, how do we do it? One way is you can use Forex Tester, which is a great software for that. But you don't have to, right? You can do it for free. You can just do this. You can just get a MetaTrader chart like this, draw your zones on it, and then hit the F12 key. And one bar at a time, go through and see where do I find a nice setup here. And when I see one, I'm going to record it. I'm going to write it down in my notepad or my spreadsheet. Like, look at this. See, we've got a kangaroo tail in our zone right here. It's a nice zone. It's a spot where we've seen some recent bouncing over here. Price bounced off of it and traded higher. And now we have a kangaroo tail. A brilliant kangaroo tail. Really long kangaroo tail. Really nice looking. So I put my buy stop above it. Right here. And then, let's see what happens. It triggers it. And I'm in a drawdown. But that's okay. My stop loss is down here. And then, now it's going a little bit higher. I've got a slight profit after 2 days. 3 days, I'm in profit. 4th day, I hit my first profit target. I can move my stop to break even now and shoot for this target up here. Okay, and I get stopped out of break even. So there you go. I only made it up to here. Now, we've got more questions here. Trying Trader says it is difficult to trade off the 4-hour charts when trading micro lots. It is very difficult to beat the broker spreads when trading small time frames. Do you have any ideas on the risk-reward positioning on small time frames with micro lots? Trying Trader, to be completely honest, I would say that for most traders I know, trading any strategy on a lower time frame chart from the get-go is going to be disaster. Now, there are going to be a few talented folk out there who, the day that they start Forex trading is the day they start making money. But that's not me, and that's probably not most of the people here. The problem with trading lower time frames is that everything is compressed. So you've got to calculate your risk very quickly. You've got to make sure that your execution is spot on. You've got to be able to react if you need to. So what happens is everything is so tightly compressed. The other thing is that you're paying about, instead of, if I trade the daily chart, the daily charts may mean that about, 1% of my profit target is eaten up by the spread. If I'm trading the 5-minute chart, maybe 30% or 40% of my profit target is eaten up by the spread. So it's a big, big difference. So that's tricky. So I would say, rather than trying to trade a lower time frame, most traders I know, even with small lots, if you've got micro lots, you can still trade daily and weekly charts. In fact, I think it's it's a positive thing because it allows you to learn patience and sit through weeks and weeks of trades and accumulate hundreds of pips if you find some nice successful setups. So my opinion is that most traders are much better off learning to trade the higher time frames before moving to the lower time frames. Almost universally true, in my opinion. And that's just what I've seen from people. Manoj says that his feeling is that he gets a strategy, he gets the feeling that a trader will eventually come across a strategy almost by accident while testing it, and spending hours and hours of screen time, like the great scientific discovery. Manoj, that could be, but a lot of traders will probably do just as well to take something that makes sense, that resonates with them. So if the kangaroo tail resonates with you, to take it and just test it over and over and over again, get really good at it, and that way you won't leave it. If you've tested a system and you get really comfortable with it, you won't dump it, right? Because when you have a drawdown, you'll stick with it. Michael says there's free software now that changes the MetaTrader into Forex Tester. Yeah, I don't know about that software, guys. I know you guys have been talking about it. So I don't know about that software. Sorry. Michael says, why reinvent the wheel? These strategies are great. Yeah, I mean, these are sort of tried and true old price action systems, that I have applied rules to them. And I find that they work on a lot of markets. You just have to be patient. If you're trading the daily charts, if you're trading the daily charts, you can still have a job and trade, right? That's what I like about it. If you've got a job, if you're at work for 10 hours a day, right, then, with travel time and everything, then these sorts of strategies are really ideal because they allow you, the trader, to manage your trades with essentially one glance of the chart every day. Every day you just see the chart, put in your orders, and then walk away. The next day you come back, and if it doesn't trigger your trade, if you're trading the daily chart, you just dump it, right? Hi, Lenny. I get about 78% win rate, but that's everything's different. Everyone needs to do their own testing and figure out what works for them. Okay, guys. I think I have to go, but I hope to see you next week. Thanks a lot for your time. I wish you good trading. And thanks to FX Street and Trader's Choice FX for putting this on. A lot of great traders here. Thanks, Looney. Maybe next time we'll look at a new strategy. All right. Yeah, just email me, Trying Trader, if you want free stuff. I've got these books and stuff if you want them. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Bill. It's highpipdiet@gmail.com, Trying Trader. Thanks, Looney. Hey, glad to hear it. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you later, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for spending time here, Sarah. Thanks, Diego. Bye, guys.